In this chapter, we will be looking at COMPONEER on ceramics and in combination with ceramic restorations. This example illustrates the problem of composite bonding to ceramic. If only partial areas are repaired or restored, then discoloration may occur over time in the marginal areas between composite and ceramic. Despite massive gingival recession due to trauma, the tooth is too short when compared to the adjacent tooth. To give a good long-term outcome, the entire surface is now restored and covered. The old composite was removed, the dentine areas activated, and the crown was ground buccally. The crown was not removed, as it is an inlay crown. In the case of inlay crowns, the core is a pin which protrudes into the tooth. Removing the crown would therefore entail the risk of root damage. Therefore, the crown was left in place. The crown was etched with 5% hydrofluoric acid. That is this red etching gel. The adjacent teeth were protected as far as possible with matrices. Monobond S is applied to the dentine areas and silane to the ceramic. Then primer is applied to the dentine, and then bonding agent over all areas. During light curing, we can differentiate the different structures. The dentine area below, and here the ceramic core. Opaque was used to give a better optical result. In this case, it was white opaque, included in the paint-on colors kit. The marginal areas were coated to cover the yellowish lines which cannot be avoided. The size of the componeer is selected on the surface. It is somewhat too short due to the massive recession. Therefore, the componeer was not placed with white opalescence or universal in this case. A1 dentine was used. This allowed covering of the recession and the cervical area, which does not appear too bright, in order to avoid an extremely long tooth optically. The surface is covered, and this situation will not occur in the future. There was a single tooth restoration, but often the entire anterior region needs to be restored with an already existing crown. Here there are crowns on the premolars and on the 6. For purely optical reasons, we would like to come forward a bit. As the situation behind the cuspid is rather narrow, this results in an inverted line, which does not really fit the lip contours. In addition, the teeth are prepared and pre-treated in the area where the crown is to be veneered. And because this is epigingival, it was decided to shift the gingiva slightly using a retraction cord. This covers the dark dentine areas of the root treatment. The crown was also prepared. The surface was roughened slightly and reduced. Here one can see the ceramic etching gel and the hydrofluoric acid on the crowns. At the same time, phosphoric acid is applied to the teeth, with the result of etching everything in one. If one feels unsure, one can place a matrix between the crown and the phosphoric etching gel. Otherwise, the crown is etched first and the phosphoric acid applied after spraying. Here is the conditioned front of tooth 5 to 5. The enamel areas and the crown are etched. Here we can see the specific procedure. First we apply silane solution to the crown, and only then the primer to the dentine. For etching, the bonding agent is then applied over all areas. Preparation is completed. One can see this dark dentine area. This resulted from deposits, either through root treatment material or metallic posts, from which ions migrated into the root dentine. These areas were covered with white opaquer. It is important that the opaquer does not quite reach the retraction cord. Otherwise, this would leave a white line here, which is just as unattractive as the present black line. In the end, the gingiva will regrow and conceal these areas, and define and position itself anew. At the same time, we wanted to elongate these teeth and shift them buccally. The one moves closer to the two. The elongation of the central incisor has twisted the two somewhat buccally. The base is cleaned up. There is a slight shift toward the incisor, and the tooth arch can be rounded. This has created a base. The crown was painted, and the teeth rounded at the base. And finally, componeer is added to cover from tooth 5 to tooth 5. It would also have been possible to include the 6, but that is positioned relatively near the back and hardly visible. Teeth 5 to 5 are now homologized. The final picture shows the rounded tooth arch, including the crown in the posterior region. So far, we've only treated single situations or individual crowns. Often, however, we are faced with the problem of a bridge which should not be replaced. In such cases, monetary aspects often play a role. A bridge is a relatively expensive as well as an invasive structure. If it's still in good order, it will be retained under circumstances. Nonetheless, one would like to make the anterior more attractive with componeer. In this case, we prepared a diagnosis. The female patient was informed that the bonding strength of componeer to ceramic would be slightly less than to enamel. The teeth are prepared, and here you can see the preparation. Only old composite, discoloration and small irritants were removed. No preparation beyond this was hardly necessary. The crowns were prepared with 4.95% hydrofluoric acid and the teeth subsequently with phosphoric acid. Now all surfaces are conditioned. To repeat the correct procedure, first apply silane solution to the ceramic surface, then primer to the critical area and dentine. Then bonding is applied, the matrices placed. First, the background was homologized and brought to the same level. The length of the incisal edge was also adapted to subsequently place the componeer on the bridge as well as the interdental pontic area. One can see that the pontic extends up to the gingiva. One can also see the componeer placed in the pontic area. At the same time, the mandible was also restored. Owing to this special procedure, it was possible to place the componeer despite the crown bridge reconstruction. Ceramic has its pros and cons, both as a full ceramic or a bonded metal ceramic restoration. The color shade often presents a problem during fabrication in the laboratory. If we have both composite and ceramic, then it's not easy to imitate the shades. After several attempts at adapting the ceramic crown, we decided to do without in this case. The teeth had been restored years ago. The tooth was lost due to an accident. A single implant was inserted in its place and complemented by a ceramic crown. The ceramic crown appears more inanimate than the surrounding structures, so we decided to solve the problem in a different way. Only a ceramic core as the color of the tooth was fabricated in the laboratory. This ceramic core was permanently screw-retained, complemented with dentine and completed with a componeer. To do this, the ceramic was etched with 4.9% hydrofluoric acid, silanized, bonded, and light cured. The sealing hole was filled with dentine and the screw channel with composite. This allowed placing of the componeer afterwards. In the final picture, we can see how well the shade of the componeer is integrated. This is because it's made of the same material used for creating the subsurface. There's no longer any comparison with the ceramic crown on the abutment. Componeer can be used in many different ways. In the case just demonstrated, it was a definitive solution. In the following case, componeer is used as a temporary solution. The initial situation is a fractured bridge. There is only a single root treatment stump left, which is not sufficient to act as a post. It was decided to place a single implant in position 3. This raised the question of temporary restoration to also condition the gingiva. We wanted to place a CEREC crown on the 4 and a temporary composite abutment on the 3, a componeer. This is fairly simple to do, as long as the neck of this abutment is well insulated with a dental dam in the cervical area. Bonding on the abutment should be avoided as best possible, as the gingiva would otherwise become inflamed. Here we can see a 2-layer procedure. The componeer is firmed down together with the dentine mass buccally. The composite is adapted and filled up palatally at the same time. In other words, the abutment is sandwiched. We cannot achieve real bonding to the abutment, but it is quite an acceptable solution. Prior to impression taking, one can see that the componeer is well integrated on the implant as a temporary measure. No inflammation or irritation occurred, and finally a fully ceramic crown was placed on top.